And here we are again. Baby Rizzo here, and we're talking to the void. And this time, I'd just like to spotlight a movie that I just don't think has gotten enough attention, and it really should deserve some more. Today, The Limehouse Golem. It's sort of a period piece murder mystery set in the Victorian days, and, well, kind of a hard movie to describe, actually. It's a very well done murder mystery, more than a horror or sci-fi like I usually talk about. But this one, it bears talking about. So, this one's, it's a period piece, and several historical figures actually appear in the movie, namely Dan Leno, Karl Marx, and George Gissing, as they get embroiled in the murders of the Limehouse Golem. So, the movie is very theatrically told, as a lot of the movie revolves around the old-time music halls with stage performers, and some of that kind of bleeds into the narrative as a whole, particularly for the framing device, as well as how some characters imagine things going through. Alright. The plot's a bit complicated at times, so at least when trying to sum it up. So, it pretty much begins with Lizzie Cree is accused of poisoning her husband, and at about this, and she's in jail and on trial and will be hung if she is found guilty. Meanwhile, then an inspector is called in to continue the investigations of the Limehouse Golem, a murderer that has been brutally slaying people around this time. Their paths sort of cross as her husband, now dead, was one of the primary suspects of being the Limehouse Golem. And the movie is mostly told as a series of flashbacks to Lizzie's life, of how she came to know her husband, and as well as several other people that she's come across, many of whom are also suspects in the case. Then Lizzie, in her youth, joined up with a theater group, uh, run largely by Dan Leno, and his tendency to cross-dress on stage and have a flamboyant personality kind of lends to him becoming her mentor, and she met her husband through him. And it keeps jumping back between the present with her on trial and her past as the inspector, played by Bill Nighy, tries to sort out what happened in her life and how it may or may not tie into the brutal slayings of the golem. Meanwhile, during this, the inspector is reading the diary that the golem kept and keeps flashbacking to the murders, so a lot of those are told in flashback. But each time he's picturing a different person as possibly being the golem, whether it's her husband, Dan Leno, or a couple others. And it does a pretty good job keeping you guessing on who the golem actually is, as well as what's really going on at the heart of the issues. So overall, the movie is very well acted, and Bill Nighy is, as always, a standout. He actually wasn't originally intended to be in this film. His part was actually meant for Alan Rickman, but he ended up taking ill at the time, so it was just shortly before Alan Rickman's passing. So the movie itself was dedicated to him. So I guess if you can't get one Love Actually actor, you get another. But in either hands, this movie would have been very good, regardless. And Bill Nighy does very good in his typical, I don't know if you could say typical for Bill Nighy, but his drawl and just the faces he makes, he does a lot of good acting with. So his character is very stoic, but you can just tell what he's feeling just from how he's looking at the time. Now, this does kind of blend a little bit into the horror element, as the Limehouse Golem itself is kind of seems to take a page from the Jack the Ripper killings, and when it does flash back to the murders, they are brutal, as the Golem isn't shy about dismembering and displaying his art, as he puts it. And he seems to be trying to attract as much attention as he can, and his killings become increasingly more over the top, involving decapitations, eyes being taken, tongues being cut out, and bodies displayed in very macabre scenes. The golem spares no one, and he seems to be acting without a pattern, taking women, children, adults, Christians, Jews, you name it, the golem will do his thing. The movie definitely sticks with you, leaves you thinking about the resolution, because there are more than one twist along the way for what's going on, and overall, I do highly recommend this one. It's become kind of a personal favorite of mine, but it just hasn't really received a lot of traction. I don't believe it got a theatrical release stateside. I know it did in the UK, but over here I think it went straight to video, and therefore it is not even rated. Um, this one's kind of hard to talk about just because I don't really want to give anything away on it, but stylistically, it's very well done. The period piece is beautifully shot. The acting is it's intense. You really feel for some of these characters, whether it's horror at the situation or just levity, as the comedy that that is in here does land. Personally, for me, I give this one a 5 out of 5 myself. For MacGuffins, maybe a little bit biased just for it might have hit me at the right point at the right time, but it's a very entertaining murder mystery and highly recommended. My partner watched this one with me, and she's not usually one for gore, but does like both period pieces and murder mysteries, and she said she would give it a 4 using my MacGuffin scale. It was a little bit intense for her at times for the gore aspect, but that's understandable. This one doesn't shy away from going a bit extreme, but it's done sparingly, I think, and it hits it at just the right points to be shocking when it has to be. I would never say it's completely gratuitous in that regard. I think that's really all there is I can say about this one without going into spoiler territory, and I think there'd be too much of a disservice on this one to go into, so I will say my favorite ended up being Douglas Booth's portrayal of Dan Leno. He is delightful. He's over the top. He's fun. He steals the screen every time he's on camera. All right, I think that's all for Limehouse Golem. Again, if you manage to track down a copy, don't hesitate. Go for this one.